Welcome to Her Side of the Game, the podcast where we talk about the basketball life nobody puts into the brochures.
It's the good, the messy, the hilarious, the scripts on the phones, and the way how do we end up living here type of stories.
I'm G, or Gianna. I spent almost 10 years in this basketball world, officially retired from the suitcase life. You guys got that now.
And I'm Jess. I currently live in Spain. Definitely still trying to figure out grocery store hours and figure out life abroad. This is my sixth year, I think, overseas.
So we're here to talk honestly about life around the game from our perspective as partners, as women, as mothers, as friends, and honestly, just as humans trying to thrive in a lifestyle that constantly changes.
And yes, players, you are welcome too. We would actually love to hear from you. Um, Maybe a little peer pressure applied there. We want to hear your stories, their version of events, and we want to help document your chaotic journey.
You definitely hit on it, Jess. This is a space for everyone in the basketball orbit. We're talking about spouses, players, girlfriends, parents. Let's get some parentals on the show,
Ooh, I would
and
love that.
teammates. And teammates.
And it's also for anyone who's ever Googled how do you ship 12 suitcases internationally without being in fight or flight, without your chest hurting, without crying.
And so you're listening
To
to
her
Her
side
Side of the Game.
of the game.
Do, 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 do.
Insert sound.
That was good. All right, so today, our first topic on episode 1, we are going to hit on two very important topics about this overseas life. And we are going to be talking about sacrifice and resentment.
Yeah, I feel like what's super interesting about this like overseas basketball life, especially from like the woman's perspective, is like what it actually takes. Like what it actually takes to do this. What does this actually look like? And I think on like TikTok now, especially TikTok on an Instagram, I love to see like the growing overseas basketball wife community where there's so many perspectives from so many different countries, from different teams at different levels. Like this is all really exciting to see. And I think the one thing that we haven't done from this is like actually create a podcast about it. Like actually, talk about it in like a dialogue type of format. We love the videos. They're super fun and interesting to watch. Like I literally scroll online all day looking at them probably and like and comment on all of them because you girls look beautiful.
You know,
I'm your biggest fan in the comments. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because like, what does it actually take to live this life as the partner, as the wife, fiance, girlfriend, whatever.
and I think it's something that's I'm gonna constantly kind of go back to this because I think now being retired and having this platform, I see it in a different perspective. But 10 years ago, when I was, packing up my entire life, I had a job that I loved. I was working with the Knicks and the Liberty. I was, working with kids in inner city, New York City and Harlem. And it was something that I really was passionate about. And I was kind of like moving up in the game. I was moving up in my career, got married, and I had to move to Russia. And honestly, I kid you not, like during that summer where we got married, I asked Kyle, I was like, so are we gonna like sign a new contract? Like where are we gonna be next year? Are we gonna be in Barcelona? Are we gonna be in Spain? Like I saw all of these other teams that I was like, okay, this location looks so much more attractive. But you said it. You were like, we have like this growing community on TikTok that we see kind of like evolving. Like their families are flourishing on the social media. And I just wish I could have had that, you know, like moving to Moscow. Like what I was leaving all of my friends and family and I was moving to Russia. There was not a TikTok video of what do you do when you land or, some of the slogans or how do you say hello in Russian? All of these little tips and tricks that you get now, the time change. I don't know if anybody knows this, but the time doesn't change in Moscow.
Wait, it
Like,
doesn't?
no, the
I
time
didn't know that. I
doesn't
didn't
change.
know that.
I wish, that's something that I wish I would have known, but the
Yeah.
time doesn't change in Russia. You can be 8 hours away from home. They change, it's 9 hours now. It could be 10 hours. Like, it does not change, it stays consistent. So, I love to see the women on TikTok, the families, the young players kind of eager and being overseas, but also just really embracing the life overseas. But I want to ask you a question.
Ooh.
When you were moving overseas, what did your sacrifice look like?
So it was interesting because I moved during COVID. I moved in 2020 to Belgrade. My husband was playing for Red Star at the time. And I think at that exact time, I didn't feel like I was giving up anything because I still had my regular corporate job. COVID shut down the world, so we basically just went remote. And we worked remotely anyways for the most part. I think we only went into the office maybe like 2 days a week. I was working in corporate technology consulting. And so, yeah, I went to Belgrade and I was just like, okay, well, I have to work US hours, whatever. I mean, whether I'm in America or in Belgrade, I'm still going to work friggin' 14 hours a day. If you've ever worked in consulting, you know what I mean. And so, yeah, I think at first it didn't feel as large of like a shift, but I also didn't have any kids, it was not anything like that. So, after I had my first son, I feel like that's whenever I felt the big sacrifice because the world was this was a maybe like May of 2022. My son was probably 4 or 5 months old. I was coming off my maternity leave from my job, and everyone was kind of starting back into offices in America, and so there was no way for me to continue working overseas anymore. Corporate red tape is everywhere. It was just like we just can't actually do this anymore. And so, yeah, I had to quit my job because there was even if I had finessed it in some way and transferred to an office in Germany, which would have been possible, there would be no way to maintain that with a EuroLeague basketball schedule.
Right.
And not a newborn anymore, but he would be, 7, 8 months old, still a little baby. So I had to quit my job because it just was not feasible. So yeah, I think that was the first like really big sacrifice. I mean, I went from making well over 6 figures to nothing. And that I had worked for, much like you, actually much like a lot of the women in our world, we had worked really, really good full-time jobs prior to marrying our husbands and going overseas. And, there's a lot of beauty in sacrifice, I think. But I think I was, when I say gravely underprepared for how it would actually impact me, I think I was very, very underprepared of what it would actually make me feel like, which is crazy because I had always dreamed of. I mean, I tell my husband this all the time. My dream always was to have our lives together, live life together with a family and whatever else. So it was everything I had ever dreamed of and was so happy to be there. But then also it was like, boom, you got to give this up. And I was like, oh, it was really hard and it impacted me differently than I thought.
Yeah, and I think like this is a sacrifice that nobody sees,
Right.
where it's almost like a loss of identity in a way, like when you talk
Yeah.
about the shift. I know, and we're talking about real things here, but I know that you also give up job, you give up family time, you give
Yeah.
up community. You're celebrating, Christmas and holidays and birthdays and New Year's and baby showers, whatever it is, like you're celebrating it with your community, with your people. And then now that all changes. And sometimes that community is just that one person, that's your spouse,
Yeah.
depending on where you are. Not every team has, individuals that you can share these intimate moments with, and you sometimes feel isolated. I think when I took that flight, and I wish I would have had a different perspective. Knowing what I know now, going back, I would have done things differently. I think my perspective, kind of traveling over there, would have been different. It took me a lot of time to adjust. I think when I left my job December, I believe it was December 15th, and I also moved from New York City to South Jersey, so Kyle's hometown. So
Mhm.
now I'm moving from my own apartment down to, a house, a home, and I'm very grateful for it, but this was all like the shift that happened in that moment in South Jersey. And then now, 5 days later, I'm taking a 10, 11 hour flight to Russia, and I think it was probably for around. Oh, I told Kyle, I said it was probably 2 weeks where I was like low key depressed.
Yeah.
It was like, what do I do now? My whole life revolved around my job, waking up, going to work, staying late hours, going to game nights, going to after hours. You had this whole like in office culture that you were a part of. You're crying boohoo tears when you're leaving the office. And now it's just like, I get there. You asked me to be here. I'm here. But now you have to take a 7-day trip, you know, somewhere in Uzbekistan, and I'm now by myself. And I felt very like isolated, very
Yeah.
alone. Um, you can even say like low key depressed at a point where I was just like, did I make the right decision? You
Yeah.
know? So it's like this sacrifice turned resentment in a way where you're constantly questioning your decisions. Like, is this the right move? Um, and I think the one thing that kind of got me out of that rut, and I say this to a lot of people when moving overseas, is like sometimes you just need those things to make you feel like you can exist here, like home. So I had another basketball wife. I kept hearing about this person. Her name was Stacy. And kept me, Stacy. Stacy was a mom. I wasn't a mom yet. So like she was living a different life than I was. Didn't I chose not to adjust to the time zone, so I was still sleeping until like 4 p.m., waking up
Have you
at
said I
5,
chose
having
not
my
to?
first meal of the day. But I remember like one day she invited me. She was like, "You just need to wake up early, get adjusted, and come meet me for like lunch." And she told me where to get like the little things, where to get your nails done, you know, where to get your eyebrows done, where to work out, where to, get good coffee, a croissant, or grocery shop, like the little things that started to make it feel like, okay, like I can do this every day. Like this is not as bad as it seems. So it was definitely a very interesting process and transition for me personally. Um, I think one thing that I guess just bouncing off of you and asking you another question, because I think your insight is great, and everywhere that you've been all over the world is like, we know what we both gave up, but it's
Yeah.
just what did we gain, I guess, during this whole process?
No, I think that's such a good question. And I'm so interested in your perspective too for whenever, you've retired and now moved back. Like, cause it's different, but you're living a similar life. So I'm so interested to see what you have to say about this too. But I feel like I gained a new sense of self in a lot of ways because I think across the board, this applies to like this situation, but I think a lot of others is you have to lean into it. You have to really lean into it and embrace it. And the sooner you do that and just be like, the situation is what it is, it's not going to change. I did choose to come over here, although maybe the circumstances around it were out of my control. I'm here, so I might as well lean into it and embrace it. And I think it helped me like just get a new sense of self and kind of shifted my identity a little bit, but I always thought that identity shift would be a bad thing. Like, because I always thought, whenever you see stuff on the internet or Instagram or whatever, and it was like this really bad stereotype about wags, period. I think people have a certain perspective of them. And so I was like, oh my gosh, is this going to be me? I'm actually like really smart and have had really good jobs. Like, I don't want this to follow me around, you know? And so when I finally just leaned into it, and was like, this is part of my identity, and that's okay. And it has, I think it really, really just transformed me in a lot of ways. I think it helped me actually connect with my husband to be like, you know what? Now I get what it's like for you to have been over here the previous 5 years by yourself. Like now I can understand you more deeply. And I feel like it just gave me a deeper sense of self, a new perspective. And honestly, it was the character adjustment I needed. I feel like I needed to be a little bit humbled. You know what I
I was
mean?
gonna say humble. You need to be humbled a little bit.
It was humbling in
Yeah.
so many ways. And you know what? That is exactly what I needed. So
Yeah.
it was really good. And I think,
Mm,
the other part too is while maybe you give up community, you gain a whole new one.
right.
And I have met some of I mean, the most amazing women overseas. You know, that first year we were in Belgrade, there's three girls on our team, and I am still close with them to this day because we just like immediately bonded and connected. And truth be told, and I think you would totally agree with this. I think any woman in this world would agree with this. Is that like no one understands this life but the other women in it. No one does.
Wait, can
No
you say
one
that
does.
again, Jess? Can you say that again? Can you
I
repeat
want to
that?
clear my throat.
Yeah.
Okay, this is for the people in the back. No one in this basketball world understands your life as the wife than the other women who are living this same life. And it doesn't matter what league you're in, it doesn't matter what country, like, it's the same. And once I realized that, I gained this so much, like, beautiful community of women and support that are just like unlike any other. I mean, I even think of us like we built a whole platform based off this life that we've lived, you know, and it's so crazy. So I
Hmm.
don't know. I feel like you do sacrifice a lot, and there is resentment. I think both of those are like natural human emotions to feel. But once you can pivot and like lean into something, it can hold the tension of okay, this is hard. I have felt resentment, and it's beautiful at the same time. So I feel like it can be both.
I think
So
you.
I'm curious though, like, what do you think you've gained now that you guys have retired and shifted back over to full time in the States? And then Kyle obviously still being involved in basketball.
I think I'm going through a phase two of the same feelings, which is so interesting because I think I had this 10 years ago, 2015, where it was the sacrifice. Then it was like the big shift in my life. And then it was kind of like the leaning in and then starting to kind of understand like, okay, people, other women in this community also get my perspective and they've also felt the things that I'm feeling. They've also felt isolated sometimes. And then there's the part where you feel like the moment where you feel like it all clicks. And you have your steady routine, your daily routine, you're working out, you're going to the games, it's exciting. I mean, it helped that, he was on a team that won. So like things were pretty
Yeah, yeah, good.
positive.
Yeah.
It was good. It was fun. A lot of chips. But I think I'm going through a phase two of the same thing because, you know, it was something that I had to prepare for myself. And I did not have anybody to speak to about this side of what happens after retirement. But I did have the opportunity to speak to mentors of Kyle, who kind of worked with him growing up and then just also just gave me pieces of advice of how to support him. You've been supporting him in his career for 15, 16 years overseas. Like, that's not necessarily going to change once he shifts out of actually playing basketball. Um, I knew the last two seasons of Kyle's career that he was going to be working in basketball in some capacity. And then at the same time, I knew as a spouse, I knew as a mother, I knew as a wife that I wanted him to continue to pursue the things that he wanted to do. Um, it's not, and I don't want to get into like a stereotype. It's not a role, This is our partnership. This is the foundation that we've built our relationship and our marriage on. Is like, yes, I support you in your career and you also support me, but you have to understand that sometimes one person's going to give more than the other, and that's going to look differently over time. So I can say this with fact and with certainty that on July 8th, we came home with 22 bags, 22 suitcases. The airline looked at us like we were absolutely crazy, but we made it work. July 8th. July 10th. Now, we know we have not adjusted to the time zone yet. July 10th, he was on a plane to go to Las Vegas for Summer League.
I think I would have cried. I know I would have cried.
I might have. There was a shit like, and I was sitting there thinking, okay, I'm not going to be here for 2 months and I don't have a way to escape and go back overseas and do all the things that I was doing before. So how do I find it in myself? Because I know that he is on his way to kind of pursue the next dream. And that is okay. So how do I find a place where I feel comfortable, and I feel steady and confident in navigating this part two of our lives with the kids. Now, when 2015, it was just by myself, so it was a lot less work that I had to do. But now I had three other little people kind of relying on me. So, when you talk about sacrifice and when you talk about resentment, I felt the same waves of emotion kind of hit me again. Like, you know, dang, I'm sacrificing this all over again. I'm doing this all over again. He's going to like he's out doing his thing, okay, but he retired, so like let me pick up where I left off. Um and then there was like the resentment, like he's always gonna do this, like he's always gonna choose him. um but I kid you not, there was a moment where he came back from one of his trips, and he was talking to a friend, and the friend like had a conversation with him, and he was just like, man, you guys are doing awesome. He's like, this is so great that you were able to retire and kind of get right into it. A lot of guys don't have that opportunity. He's like, at the end of the day, you guys are a basketball family. He was like, this is the life that you guys are going to live. You're going to live it with your wife. You're going to live it with your kids. And Kyle came back and kind of told me that. And I was like, whatever. He has no idea what's going on here. And then it sat with me a little bit. And I'm like, I can't automatically have this man change everything that we together have been working for the past 16 years, and automatically expect him to just be like, give it all up, because I've been riding with him this entire time. And I think it took me maybe about a solid 12 months, like kid you not, after we moved over to feel like I've gotten into some sort of rhythm. I think creating Simplicity Basketball with you, Jess, has helped tremendously, because I've been able to create this platform with you. You get it, you understand it, but then at the same time, we're both mothers, we're both wives, we're both supporting our husbands, and we're both building a business. So, when you hit on the women in this community, they just get it. I think that's another reason why we've been able to kind of build Simplicity Basketball, is because we both get it. We understand when one person has to lean on the other. We understand what it takes when, you have to sacrifice time and, meetings and schedules. But I definitely feel like that piece of advice that he got, that he passed along to me, kind of sat with me. And I'm like, you know what? We are a basketball family. And I can't expect him to just turn a 180 just because of the fact that we find ourselves in a different location. And I think once you kind of have this mind shift and you understand, like you said, you have to lean into the process, because once you kind of get out underneath that cloud, there's so much positivity that can happen.
For sure.
So much, moments. We talked about friendship, like people that I've met 10 plus years ago that I'm still friends with now. I think is so incredibly special. I think one thing that I haven't experienced, but I know that a lot of women and players, go to these locations and feel completely alone. Like they feel like they can't even adapt to the city. Basketball is not going right. They're not winning, or they're not playing the way that they want to. But what kind of piece of advice would you have for somebody who feels completely alone?
That is such a good question, because this happens more often than not, I would say, with people in their first, maybe like first contract overseas, first, second year. It is not easy. It's just not easy. So I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give somebody is, especially if you don't have any like any teammates that you connect with, because maybe people have families, like you just never know what you're going to get when you go over somewhere to a new team and city. I think if you can just find a way to get in the community, like the local community somehow, like make friends with the barber, you know hang out with him, get recommended spots from him, hang out with a family that comes to the game. I think that is one of the biggest blessings I've experienced this year for sure. Is there's a family, like a Spanish family that we are really close to, and they are just so like amazing. They invite us to their village all the time and to their house, and they cook for us. And that has been they love our children. and this has been the most beautiful experience for us. And I wish I had done this sooner, like started this like mindset of let's just get involved with the people in the community. And so, yeah, I think if somebody can do that and find ways just to, find something, then I think that's probably a really good first step. And I think the other thing, which is more difficult because it's like the unseen, and I would give this advice to both women and men or whoever, moves overseas, the player, the partner, it doesn't matter, is you do have to have a mindset of this is not going to last forever. Things in fact do not last forever. This is not, this is like science, you know what I mean? Like things are, finite. And so if you can think about it in that capacity, then I think you are less likely to let it to feel like a cloud is over your head all the time. It doesn't feel as like,
Heavy.
I don't know, daunting,
Yeah.
And not to invalidate people who are going through that, because when you're in it, it's easy for me to say this, you know what I mean? And I totally understand that because I've been there. So it's more of the, okay, let's just find the beauty in today. Let's find the beauty in this week. What can I set up that I can look forward to within the next 2 weeks? Who can I call today? It's like an uplifting conversation that I know no matter what, it's going to make this a little bit better. Maybe I'm still homesick, maybe I'm still lonely, but who can I call right now that I know will answer, that will lift my experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you could just go like day by day and just remind yourself gently, okay, this is not going to last forever. It is not fun right, like almost acknowledge your own feelings. This is not fun right now. Don't lie to yourself because it ain't always fun. And
Yeah.
lying to yourself makes it worse. So just be
Yeah.
like, this isn't fun. I know it's not fun. It's not going to last forever. Who can I call? What can I do to shift the environment around me? And I think if you
Who
can
can
do
come
that,
visit me?
yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think that way you can just navigate all the new stuff a little bit better.
Yeah. I also think one thing that happened to both of us in Russia and in Italy, and I know this sounds real cheesy, but it helped, was to find a restaurant that you really love,
Yes.
like almost
No.
like your local restaurant. And I think that definitely helps because once you get there, people know your face, they know
Yes.
you, they talk to you. It doesn't matter if like you can communicate with them or not, but if you go there and have a meal that you truly love and enjoy, and you have that to kind of like rely on, and when people come to visit, you can bring them there, it almost feels like you're bringing them, to a place local that you just enjoy. Um, I remember in Russia we had like a American steakhouse actually. And there would be a lot of Americans there, so we would be able to communicate with people. But Kyle would go there a lot just to get like a good steak. And it happened to be kind of like our local spot. And then the place across the street, shout out to Lo Sincero in Milan, we would go there all the time. They knew us, they knew our kids. We would bring family there often. Depending on where you are, find a good local restaurant, whether it's a pizza place, a burger place, it does not matter, pasta. Just find a place that you know that you can get a good meal when you want it,
No, this is such good tactical
right?
advice, like for real, because this is good. I mean, like food will make you feel better. It is true. Food is
Mm-hmm.
comforting. This is
Listen.
not a lie. And I don't know, it's fun to make friends with like the people at the restaurant. I don't know. I try to make friends with like the security guards, the people at the coffee shop, people on my walk when I walk my son to school. I make friends with the people on the walk. I don't know. It just makes it nice.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt to get a little free dessert every now and then.
Definitely does not.
But I used to go into one restaurant that used to give me like a little prosecco while I was waiting for takeout. I'm
I
like,
make him.
this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Can't
Right.
get that in South Jersey. Um, uh, I guess the next thing I wanted to kind of hit on too was the resentment piece. Like this is
Yeah, yeah, this is
huge.
big.
Um, and there's short-term resentment, and then there's like this long-term resentment that just kind of sits with you and eats away at you sometimes. Um, and just thinking about kind of how I felt and how my feelings towards not Kyle per se, but the situation. It was something that was out of his control. And, when you think about putting yourself in their shoes, they're away from family more than us. We have the flexibility to go back home when we don't feel good. when we're homesick. We have the flexibility of visiting friends and moving around and adjusting that way. But I think I had almost resentment towards the situation. Out
Yes.
of anybody in the world, or who, like your agent, whoever, like you chose to be here at this time, like we could be somewhere else. And I think that kind of hit me in waves. It hit me as soon as I moved over. It would hit me a lot around the holidays. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, the holidays were really tough for me, probably in my first 2 years overseas. I think also when I had kids, and it doesn't help. Like sometimes family, they don't mean it, but they'll like provide like little nuggets, like make you feel bad for being away, and you're like, I'm just trying to like love on my husband and be a good wife and a good mom and take care of myself and like cook, clean,
Right.
and get everything done. Like I'm just trying to be the best version of me that I can be. And so it would definitely hit me. And I think it was hard to get out of those moments sometimes. But I think we were in a good place in Russia. Basketball was good, but I can tell you wholeheartedly, like the community around the game was very special. Uh, and I don't know if it was, and you said you experienced it too in Belgrade. I don't know if the cold countries
Unites
make you
people.
bond together, you know? And I think because we couldn't travel, like in Moscow, you can get on a plane, but you have to go like 6, 7 hours to get to somewhere warm. We didn't really travel to a lot of road games either. Every road trip that the team would take would be a flight. So they would be gone for an extended period of time. So because of their absence, like us as women and as, mothers and wives, like we had no choice but to bond together. And I think those were the moments that kind of got me out of that rut,
Yeah.
where you would come together and I mean, there's, well, you didn't have to have quick kids, it was just like the time spent together to talk, to eat, to drink, to take trips to the mall, take trips to the fun spaces. I think really changed my perspective of what this life could look like. And even though Kyle was successful in the game of basketball, I had my own opportunities to be successful in the years that I was going to spend overseas. And I was a huge component of how to dictate what that would look like. I did not know when I went over in 2015, I was going to spend close to 10 years overseas. Like, that is a long time.
That's a long time.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I might have went over and Kyle was like, I got like 3, 4 more years on my contract. No,
LOL.
you had 9.
Right, you had 9. Let's be clear.
Um, so then it was just like, what am I going to do with all my time? What am I going to do with all my time? Am I going to choose to just be mad and get upset and pick at every little thing that you do, or the time that you spent away, the things that you forgot to do and not shown up? Or do I take control of my own happiness? Pour into myself, pour into the others that make me feel loved and supported. Um, and then in turn, what that would do for my relationship would make it so much more positive. Because I think Kyle really loved when he saw me happy, So I had to make myself happy first before he did. I couldn't rely on him to do that for me. And I think that's where the community came in. And it was a huge, huge shift into like what this overseas life could look like. And I did not know how long it would be, but I knew that I wanted to kind of take advantage of it for the time that I had it.
Yeah, totally. No, I can relate a lot to that because it isn't if I can speak. It isn't resentment for your husband or your partner. It is resentment at the situation
Hmm.
itself. And it's hard because we probably all came from lives where we did have a say. You know what I mean? Like, and not to say the husbands don't include us on the contract negotiations, what's best for me, what's best for the family, what's best for the career. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking like, y'all, and y'all know what I'm going to say this, and everyone is going to go, yes. When the team changes the practice schedule and you've had a pedicure appointment booked for a month, and then your kids are somehow magically out of school that day, you can't get the pedicure because the practice schedule has shifted within the last hour. This is what I mean, resentment towards the situation. It's like, ugh,
Situation. Oh
you
God.
know, and I have so many stories right that I have a really personal story that maybe I'll tell on here one day, about like it was a deeply personal situation to our family. Yeah, it was like the basketball situation just like made it so hard, you
Yeah.
know? And I think a lot of people have those stories. But yeah, it's like resentment toward the situation. And this is like very natural, you know what I mean? It is natural to be upset when you've booked a pedicure appointment for a month and you can't go to it anymore and you've been looking forward to it for the last week.
Yeah.
So this is a natural reaction to this. So
And there's a game in 2 days, and you don't want to go to the game raggedy.
you don't want to go to the game. Who wants to go to the game raggedy? Nobody wants to
Right.
go looking crazy. And so, yeah, these are the things that we're talking about. And then it really is. I love what you said about like filling your own cup. If I could give any particular advice to women, like who are just overseas in general, is you find ways to pour into yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Like the more that you can do that, the happier you will be. Because it's true. It's just like you said. This is why I love it so much. Like there is no way for you to like support your husband in the way he needs to be if you haven't supported yourself, which is extremely accurate and true in any situation.
Got a little muffled there, Jess. I think you got a little.
No, I just said what you said was right, girl. It was good. You got to pour into yourself. Fill that cup.
Yeah, pour
You can
into
fill
the
it with
cup.
some champagne if you want.
Pour it in.
I would love to fill
Pour it
mine
up.
right now with an iced caramel macchiato. That's what I
Oh,
want to pour into my cup.
it's like
I'm
40
dying
degrees
for that.
outside here, so
I am the coffee drinker that will drink iced coffee religiously, cold, freezing, below freezing. It does not matter. I will
take the ice
like
cup.
nice coffee. I want to hear the click of the ice in the cup. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about? I want to hear that.
All right. So I think we hit on a lot of things here. Um, we hit on you know, the sacrifice, the boundaries, the community, and then most importantly, like the perspective that you need to kind of have around all of these big feelings and navigating this world. So we hope that I know it's around 37 minutes, and we didn't want these chats to be extremely long. We wanted you to be able to kind of take a walk from your apartment or to the grocery store or just kind of go shopping and kind of listen to what we have to say about the different topics. And there's going to be so many more, and we'd love for you guys to chime in.
Yeah.
If there's something that you want to talk about, there's something that you want us to talk about. We're here to kind of like break it all down from our perspective and from yours. Um, and then, is there anything else you want to say about that, Jess, before we get to our rapid fire questions?
I think so. I think you covered it. We just want to hear from everybody and are excited about like what's to come with this.
Awesome. So now we're gonna end it off. We're always gonna end off our show with rapid fire questions. All right. So really quickly, okay, fastest you've ever packed a suitcase, Jess?
2 minutes?
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. Not quick though. I'm not quick
For
with
yourself or for the kids?
myself. No, I take that back. For the kids, I can pack for the kids pretty quickly because I have things always pre-packed. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
About that
nope,
checklist.
30 minutes for the children, for the babies.
I was like, don't get me started, because usually I will take a whole living room and I will start when I land. So the bags don't
Yeah,
even get unpacked. The bags just stay there, and I just keep putting stuff in the bags, and then I worry about it later.
yeah, yeah. I get it.
Um, One thing you always forget when moving.
Pretty meticulous. I have a list that I start 3 months in advance. I think one thing, let's say, maybe like some skincare stuff that it's not a big deal if I leave that I know I can get it elsewhere. We'll say that.
Sometimes I always forget, and I was gonna say skincare, like to go along with foundation. Like sometimes it's hard to be a brown girl overseas searching for
Yeah,
foundation and color matching.
yeah,
So, like, and this was before Fenty. This was before all
yes.
girl.
I
It
was about to
was,
say in Russia, you probably couldn't find any makeup. I would
and then
imagine not even like a
and then
concealer.
I was in Russia,
Yeah,
and
no shade.
light skin started to get lighter. I said, you know what? We just gonna focus on the skincare. We're gonna focus on the skin underneath the makeup.
But you know what? I bet it was popping.
Yeah, skin was Go to comfort meal abroad. Woo!
Pizza. It's easy. Pizza.
Woo! Woo! Oh man. Gosh, pizza. I would say honestly, like it was the pasta for me.
I mean,
Pasta
you're in
with
Italy. You
clams.
already.
Okay, so good.
Okay, I'll read one. I'll read one. Most
Okay.
confusing thing you bought overseas. That's a good one.
Most confusing thing I've bought overseas. Ooh. Probably adapters in Russia when I first got there. Like Kyle was on a
Oh
road
yeah.
trip, and I remember I tried to buy an adapter that I thought would work for my blow dryer.
Mm.
Nope. I think it was like day 5. I had to go shop for a blow dryer with their
Did it
outlet.
blow up?
It sparked. It didn't blow up. It sparked, and I was like, okay, I've been here for 5 days. I'm already messing stuff up. Like this is when they were telling me just get acclimated. Stop trying to use your American stuff in Russia. Just go
Yeah, yeah,
shop.
yeah, yeah. You're like, that's
I
funny.
tried. I failed.
Um, Biggest I'm over at moment.
Woo! Honestly, every time I had 2 under 2, and I would have to bring them out often, whether it was like to play spaces or to the games, and when they would break down, and it was usually my toddler girl, I'm like, cool, we over it. We are in the house for today, tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. So I will
This
see
is real
all of y'all
life.
next week because I'm over this.
That happened to me too this last year. When I was like about 25 weeks pregnant. Y'all know how kids are. When they go from 2 to 3, they just turn up the notch a little bit. Three is worse than 2. You can't tell me any different. So I took my husband was traveling, of course, and we go to the park. And I love my son because he is so independent and strong-willed. But when that strong-willed kicks in, like it
Woo.
kicks in. And I was 25 weeks pregnant. We're at the park. He's in the swing, in the seats swing, not like the not
Yeah,
the
not,
swing,
not not this deep,
seat.
but the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
with the
yeah.
legs that you got to pop through.
Yeah, 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 that one. And it was time to go. I needed to eat. Y'all know how it is being pregnant. And he refused to get out of the seat. He like locked his legs underneath and his arms around the chains of the swing. And I couldn't physically move him.
And
I couldn't
you're
like
pregnant.
remove him. And all these Spanish families around are like looking at me. I'm screaming at him and felt like I'm like, oh my gosh. For sure, my biggest I'm over it moment because it took me 15 minutes to get him out of that seat. I was sweating, hungry. It was like, I can't get out of this. Okay, I have another one for you. Things that instantly make a place feel like home.
Good food.
Yeah.
I love to cook, and I'm like, sometimes if I just want to feel like home, I'm gonna make a pot of mac and cheese and some fried chicken and sweet potatoes. There was no collard greens overseas, so I went to my go-to cabbage. Ooh, so it's food for me and family, but food.
Food, yeah, for sure. I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Uh, Worst travel day ever?
I'm trying to think. I mean, one time we had a layover in Paris and then they wouldn't let us have the stroller, which was annoying. I don't know
Mm,
why in Paris that whenever you connect internationally, they don't let you have a stroller or they don't you can't like check it at the gate and then get it
right,
when you exchange your
on your
flights.
layover.
Yeah, and so I was like, what the freak am I supposed to do with all this stuff? I was so mad. And then there's no air conditioning in there. I was sweating. I was like, this is awful. I think, and I think that is like very mild in comparison to worst travel days, but I do remember that does stick out to me, but I know it's like nothing compared to some stories.
Yeah, I mean, I had something similar, but I remember traveling, worst travel day. Well, hopefully my mom doesn't get upset at me. But I was traveling overseas, and we had the 2 kids. So I think Anya was around, I don't know, like not like 2 and a half
Yeah.
maybe, and Justin was a little baby. Justin was easy, passed out, but Anya would always have a difficult time going to sleep. She was one of those kids that had adverse reactions to melatonin, like whatever, it would just hype her up. So it took a lot of work to get her to go to sleep. And so she just passed out in the seat. And I'm like, great. I'll get like a solid maybe 1 to 2 hours, maybe more if I'm lucky. My mom was like, and we were at the bulkhead. She's like, let's just make a bed for her so she can lay down on the floor. And I know my daughter.
Yeah.
Do not move her.
Leave her.
But the grandmother came over. She was just like, let's lay. Come on, give me the pillow, give me the blanket. I'll put her down. So she picked her up to lay her down. I kid you not, the second her head hit the floor, Jess. This was like 2 hours into the 10-hour flight to Russia. She didn't sleep for the rest of the time. She did not sleep for. I was like, you gotta. Mm-mm. I'm glad, like, no explosions, like, all that kind of stuff, throwing up, sickness, like that stuff didn't happen with the kids, but it's the sleep. Like, just
Sleep is so
give me
hard.
a second. Yeah, that was it though.
Send me over the edge too, for real.
Yeah, she passed out in her high chair as soon as we got back and fed her though.
I'm sure she.
She caught up. She caught up. What's your chaos trait on game day?
What do we mean by chaos trait?
Like a flaw that you do,
Like a crash out.
like a yeah.
Okay, how do I crash on game days? I crash out on game days about 2 p.m. whenever everyone should be asleep because it's going to be a long day
Oh,
and no one
no
wants to
nap.
sleep. And then I have been up since 7 and scrambling to cook the meals, get the stuff ready. And then 2 p.m., like clockwork, we're headed towards a crash out if no one's asleep. That was
Yeah.
my nap.
I feel like my crash out trait is like I don't like to be late, so it's like
Yeah.
like yelling at the kid, let's go, get this, do this, let's go. And then all of a sudden, like I'm at the game and I'm like, oh, I love you so much. They were like, you were just yelling at us in the car, and I was like, yeah, but we're here now, so we can relax. That's
They're
my
like, okay, mom.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Um, emotional support item abroad.
Oh, for me, this is easy. It's my Bible. I'm like,
Mm,
I stick and hold very tightly to faith throughout the year. And this is a plug for Bibles and Basketball. If y'all need
there you
a
go.
faith group, if y'all need a Bible study, they're it. It is amazing. So that's really easy for me.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
Oh, thanks, friend.
I carry around like a binder of like some of my favorite photos, like a
That's
little
cute.
notebook with quotes and just like photos. And I mean, I'm talking about like photos of like my grandparents, like pictures I found along the way. And I carry that around with me, especially like when I travel, just to kind of have that piece of home.
Yeah.
I have to have that. I have to have that. So, last one.
Yeah, last one.
Okay. One thing
One.
you wish. Go ahead, Jess. You
No, no. One thing you wish people understood.
about this life?
Um, that yes, it is a choice to marry your husband or marry your partner and go overseas. Like this is a conscious choice that you make. And it can also be hard at the same time. I feel like what I wish people understood is that I said this earlier, but that things hold tension. They can be two things at once, and that a lot of stuff in this lifestyle is actually not our choice as the partner, and we have to just kind of grin and bear it. And I think the second thing that I have to mention is like, it is not a vacation, y'all. See, your husband goes on a 7-day road trip with two kids in a house, one kid in a house, no
It's
kids in the
not.
house. It
It's
doesn't
not.
matter. This is not a vacation.
Not.
We're not just gallivanting all over Europe every friggin' weekend.
Oh.
Y'all gonna make me mess my hair up for that question. It ain't a vacation though.
I think one thing that we didn't hit on, and maybe this is like bringing us into our next topic, but is that you have to work on your relationships at home. You choose
Yes.
kind of right, like you choose to go over and you're working on your relationship with your husband or your spouse, and like things are good, and y'all doing your thing, and then there are people who are watching you, and that's okay. But I think you really kind of have to understand, and I think there's a lot of things that I probably would have done differently too. Is like you leave the people that love you the most behind, and you really have to be conscious and work on those relationships too at a distance, and it's going to take time and it's going to take work. But I think at the same time, to where we did not choose this life, we chose to support somebody who's living in it. The same goes for your friends and family back home. So you kind of have to give them grace, and show them love the same way that you expect it from them.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good note to end on. That's a great like thing to talk about.
Yeah. Yes.
I've enjoyed myself.
Me too. It's like we never met before, but we've been
I mean,
talking
we
every
haven't.
single day. Wow, it was almost an hour too. So, all right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank y'all. We cannot wait to see everybody soon and tune in next time.
All right.
The millennial. Peace.
I mean, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know what I do.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what the kids are doing these days. I
Yeah,
don't know the
exactly.
things. So, anyways, all right, y'all.